Did you know that Kestra has support for SCIM? It's never been easier to be able to integrate to your existing directory full of your users and groups and being able to synchronize them directly to your Kestra instance. I'm going to walk you through how you can do this with Authentic so that you can get an idea of how it works. I'm using Authentic to manage my directory of users and groups. As you can see here under directory, I have a number of different users as well as a group here, which we can then synchronize later using SCIM. Now to enable SCIM, we can go to providers first and create a new provider. Now the provider we're going to use is SCIM Provider here using SCIM 2.0. Once I do that, I can press next. Now next it's going to ask me for a name, which I'm going to call Kestra SCIM. But then it's going to ask me for a URL and token. So we need to go back to Kestra where we can enable SCIM and we'll get given these values. Inside of Kestra, using an admin account, if you head to administration and then IAM, you'll be given the option to go over to SCIM Provisioning. Here you can then create a SCIM Provisioning integration, which requires a name and a description. And now I've got that set up, I can press save and it's going to provide me with the name and the secret that I need to provide in Authentic. Now for this to work, we aren't going to be able to use localhost. You need to have your Kestra instance accessible from an address. And then I can paste the token in there as well. Once I've done that, I can then press finish. And now I have my provider, but I do need to create an application for this to work. Now let's head over to applications and press create. Now we press create, we can now create our application, which I'm calling Kestra Directory Sync. Now, when I go down to provider, I will select the Kestra SCIM provider that we had, and I will also select the back channel provider as well as Kestra SCIM. Once we've done that, we can press create, and now this will start to work. Back into Kestra, we'll select OK, and we'll see that the SCIM provisioning is now set up. If I go to service accounts, we'll see that there's been a default SCIM provisioner added, as well as a SCIM provisioner role. The service account created will use the SCIM provisioner role to be able to add these users into Kestra, as well as any groups that we synchronize to. Now that we've created our application, we can now head to providers, select our Kestra SCIM provider, and this is where we can now provision our users and groups. Now I'm going to synchronize the user John at Kestra.io here, and when I press the synchronize button here and now head back to Kestra and refresh, we'll see that John has been added automatically, and we can see that he's been added to the user group SCIM users, so we can easily see who was synchronized with SCIM. I can also synchronize this data engineers group as well, so when I synchronize that, we'll see under groups that a data engineers group has appeared. And we can see that John was automatically added to it as John is inside of that group inside of our directory. I can synchronize more users too. So for example, I can synchronize Sarah. We'll see that Sarah will now appear here. Using SCIM, I've been able to synchronize both John and Sarah into Kestra. Now, John was inside of my data engineers group, and so he's been automatically assigned that group. I can also go to this group and assign certain roles to it. So if I want to have data engineers have access to certain parts of Kestra, maybe specific namespaces and workflows, they can have those roles as soon as they've been synchronized using SCIM. SCIM also works really nicely along with single sign-on as well. In combination, this means that users will get access to the permissions they need inside of Kestra, but also automatically have the login credentials they need to get logged in. So with those combined, they can get logged in and access the areas they need without much administration needed on the back end. Hopefully you found this useful and you're going to start using SCIM provisioning inside of your Kestra instance. If you're curious to learn more about this for your use case, I'd recommend booking a demo with the team in the description below.